It's Friday, and I want to know what's on your mind. This is a show about real people, real issues, having a real conversation every Friday.
Oh, thanks, Sheila. My name is Madeline Hammond, and I have my own marketing and event production company called Madeline Hammond and Associates. Been in business for, I think, going on now about 10 years,
Wow.
maybe even a little bit longer. Prior to that, I've had a great, been very blessed, and I've had some incredible jobs in the corporate marketing arena. And I've worked most recently for Variety, where I was associate publisher, and Landmark Theaters. I started off working at Coca-Cola, and between my very first job at Coke and my last job at Variety, I had the pleasure of working for 3 or 4 different studios in various capacities. So I really have a sense of how the entertainment business works from my various jobs, and also just meeting a lot of people on the way up. And you know what they say? Yep, those relationships are the most important thing.
Most important. Awesome. Well, awesome. Well, we'll get right into it. So our first topic of discussion, or first question of discussion, is how did you become known as the Hollywood job whisperer?
Well, that's a good question, and kind of a funny story. So there I was doing marketing, doing events, booking panels, and the usual thing, and working at Variety. And I was chief marketing officer. And I had a big team, and I had a lot of responsibility. And you know how it is, Sheila. You're having lunch with your friends, and you're saying, in the business, of course, and you're saying, so how's your job? And they'd either say, oh, it's this or that or the other. And I could tell there was a lot of people that weren't very happy. So I said, shoot me over your resume. Let me take a look at it. My career, I have a career in advertising, in design. I don't do the design, but I oversee the design. And I think a resume is nothing more than a big, gorgeous ad for yourself.
Yes.
So I started doing resumes for my friends, using the right font, making sure everything was spaced appropriately, making sure it told the story, not too much, not too little, bullet points, so on and so forth. And you know what? I guess I was kind of good at it. And the more I did, the better I got at it. And the better I got at it, the more people would talk about it, because very few people do resumes well. It scares a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's just something that I didn't realize was like a hidden talent. So I just kind of did it as a side hustle when I was at Varieties. Naturally, it wasn't part of my core job. And then when I left and went on my own and founded my own company, it became something that I was really kind of fascinated by. And one day, someone at the person that was heading up Deadline Hollywood wrote a story about
Deadline.
me.
Yes, love Deadline. Yes.
He found out, Nikki Fink was her name. She was the founder of Deadline. She found out what I was doing with helping people with resumes, and he wrote a story. And from that one story, I must have gotten, I'm not kidding, so many comments, so many things. She just had tremendous global impact on what she wrote. And by her endorsing what I was doing and helping people in the industry, because it's very traumatic when you suddenly lose your job. And a lot of people, executives in particular, they don't know what to do. Sometime at that time, everyone had a BlackBerry. They would come to me, and I would have to just show them how to transition from life as a corporate exec into their own business, or to consult, or just to take a break until they realize what they want to do. So kind of it's a long version of how it came about.
That's good. So where did the title come from? I love it.
I know. Nikki Fink, she called me the Hollywood job whisperer, and it stuck.
Oh,
and
wow.
Years later, people still refer to me as that. And I love it, because I think
I love it too. I love it.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, cool. Then what, after that, it appears that you wrote this self-help guide, 27 tips to rock that resume. So tell us a little bit about that, and then tell us, if you can, what are 3 of the most common mistakes people make?
Okay.
With the resume process.
It's kind of first I was going to say it's a funny story, but it's kind of a sad story. What happened was, it was a few months. It was just a couple months after the pandemic. We were all home and so forth, and I was feeling just like a lot of people, struggling, adapting to the new non-normal normal. And I came downstairs. I remember it well. It was a Sunday, and there was a story on the local news on Channel 5. And it had a story about the soaring unemployment rates. And I'll tell you, Sheila, it just hit me in the gut. I felt like, I felt helpless. I can't, obviously I'm not in the medical profession. There was nothing I could do in terms of being a a first responder or helping people or doing anything in the health field, but by God, I felt like, well, you know what? I can help with resumes. That's what I do. And so I went back to my computer and I spent all day, and I just was like on fire. And I just started everything that was in my head from years of doing resumes, I just dumped into the 27 tips. And I posted it free on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, and just said, you know what, for all of you can do it. For those of you that are looking for a job, maybe these tips will help. And that's it. And that's how it happened. It was a story on the news, and I just got motivated. I feel like there was a bigger force driving it, because doing the 27 tips, then I started thinking, well, maybe I could do some Zoom sessions with a few people, and
there you go.
Interview some HR folks and some recruiters and maybe some coaches and things like that. And I started doing that, and sort of one thing led to another, and I've gotten some good feedback. So I know the tips are helpful, and some of them may seem basic, but I'll tell you, sometimes you just cannot state the obvious enough. So you asked about 3 common mistakes. 1, misspelling. Right. Please make sure there's no misspellings, and don't proof it yourself. Have a friend or an associate do it, because you can look at the same word. I'm sure, Sheila, you've had this. You look at the same word or sentence 10 times and it looks fine, and there's a glaring error. Okay, misspellings. 2 is there's an old rule that said they had to be 1 page. They do not have to be 1 page unless you're right out of school. But if you've been in this business for a long time, go for 2 pages. You've got a story to tell. Space it out, make it readable.
I even heard with that, if you're a long history, you still have to somehow max it out at 2. Because if you're pushing to 3, then they're like, wow.
A little bit. You want to keep it to 2. The only way you can go to 3 is, like in your case, you're a producer. You might have an extra page for credits. An addendum for credits. If you have writing credits or acting credits or producing credits, that doesn't count. But basically, your core resume, try to keep it to 2. You can tell the story in 2. And then I would say my third, the biggest mistake that people make is that they tend to want to tell their life story. And I guess this goes to your earlier point about the length of the resume. It just should be a breakdown of what you've done and tasks that you completed in a chronology of job to job to job. You don't have to have a lot of fancy flowery adjectives, and you don't have to have it tell your life story. The resume is simply a tool to get you to the interview.
Should it be, I'm always curious, because I've paid for my resume several times from different, companies. I've done it myself several times. The big question I have is, like, sometimes should it be a 1-line subject or 1-line description of, for instance, your job title or what you do, or that if it becomes more of a paragraph, that's not good either, right?
And I'll tell you why I don't think that that's good.
Yeah.
And I know there are some people that have resumes done professionally, and I can tell a resume that you paid for in 2 seconds. I hate to tell you. I can. And the reason I can is because it's like this formula that a lot of people were using a few years back, but for people, we're talking about in the entertainment business, okay?
Yes.
Let's be blunt here. This is what your show's all about, okay?
Right.
A lot of people in entertainment, we're busy. We don't have time. We have short attention spans. And so we really appreciate the bullet point. Rock the bullet point. So please don't give me a paragraph. I don't think people read full sentences anymore. I think we like short and sweet and to the point. And so therefore, that template of which I think you're referring, you would have your title, and then there's a little mini paragraph, and then you go into these bullets. Whenever someone sends me a resume like that to redo, I immediately take away the paragraph and turn it into bullet points. Just the facts, ma'am.
Just the facts. And I've heard this thing about nowadays you shouldn't have like an objective or a summary at the top. Just go strictly right to whatever jobs you've had.
Well, I'm so happy you brought that up. Yeah. Again, in years past, people would have a summary, I'm a this, that, the other. I'm looking for this, that, and the other. I'm detail oriented. I'm a good communicator, all these flowery words. Nobody reads any of that. Because of technology, remember, LinkedIn is where most recruiters and HR people go to. And so LinkedIn is a website. LinkedIn has code. And therefore, if you're looking for a job as a production assistant, you want to be sure and put production assistant as a bullet at the top of that resume. Because if you write a long story, the computer doesn't know how to read that long paragraph, and neither does the person that's hiring. So use bullets. Use 3 or 4 bullets at the top, and that's what I call SEO, search engine optimization. It's a big, long word.
Yes.
But what SEO means is you got 3 or 4 bullets at the top of that resume, then LinkedIn, and I'm a recruiter looking for a production executive, guess what? Or a production assistant rather, guess what? That resume, all of a sudden the words match and suddenly it comes to me. You want to gear your resume for the computer, because the computer is your best ally to get it to the person you want it to. I hope that makes sense.
It does. And you know what? About a year ago, so I paid for another service, and literally this individual created like a paragraph thing, but had bullet points underneath it. And I was like, I was like, this is just too much.
Yeah, your instinct is right. A common mistake I see is a resume is too dense, meaning there's something about it and the font isn't good, and the type is too small, and there's too many words. And you know what? It doesn't invite me in. You want the resume to be inviting. And remember, have some sympathy for the person that's hiring for that position. They got a stack of them. So make it good. One more thing, I know I didn't mean to bring this up. I know you asked for 3 things, but I just want to throw in a bonus. Some people will put their picture on their resume, or their link to their LinkedIn and all kinds of social media sites. You don't need to do that. The person hiring knows how to find you on LinkedIn, knows how to find you, knows how to do their research. And you don't need to do the picture, because believe me, they are checking your social media. So to that end, might I also suggest clean up your Facebook, Instagram, make sure that you are telling the story you want to. It's one thing if you're not looking for a job, you can post all the crazy pictures you want. But if you're looking for a job, just know that there is not a social media site that is not being scrutinized by someone. And I've known people that have missed out on opportunities because they might have been a little too vocal in certain areas. Sure. Because as I mentioned, know that recruiters are going to your social platforms to look at, to kind of get a sense of you. Let's see, you asked for 3 things that they should do. Good spacing. As I mentioned, be sure you let it breathe. You talked about it being too dense with the paragraph. Let a resume breathe. Remember, earlier on when I was introducing myself, I mentioned I had a degree in design and advertising. Remember, it's an ad for yourself, so let it be attractive. You should love it. If you don't love your resume, then do it again, because it's your story. No one else has the same resume and the same experience, and you should feel very confident with that document. 2 other things that people should do is put references available upon request at the end. Don't list the references, but always put that. That has become the universal thing, the universal phrase for this is the end of my resume. You know how you mentioned about page 1 or page 2? When you see references available, that's because imagine you're printing out a 2-page resume. The person want to know, oh, okay, this is the end of it. There's not a 3rd page dangling somewhere. And I would say the other thing is, if you have any special skills, let's say you speak another language, let's say you're incredibly proficient on a particular kind of software, let's say you know Final Cut or something that is of the design, like anything that's out of the ordinary, list that under special skills. People love that as its own category.
Right, as his own category. Oh, okay.
Special skills, language, computer, anything that's a little bit different. Okay, great. I was going to pivot back to the social media. What would you think, what would hinder a person from not being hired with their social media stuff out there? I hear varying answers from several HR individuals. They have different things that they look for. What would you say are 1 or 2 things that should not be on your social media? I would say, well, everyone's entitled to their opinion and viewpoint
Yeah.
on politics and so forth. So
Mhm.
so you're welcome to have that on there, but I would caution anyone that might have that is leaning too far one way or the other with
Mhm.
maybe, you don't want anything that's inflammatory. Do you know what I mean? And you don't want anything, remember, these are just for people looking for a job. You're welcome to put anything you want on your social media, but just
Mhm.
know that someone else is looking at what you're writing, and they may not be of your close friend and family network.
Mhm.
So, but
Mhm.
it's fine to have a couple pictures of your kids. Great, dogs are great. You have to think of it in terms of trying to get a sense of you as an individual.
Yeah.
So I can't really think of anything that you shouldn't put on there
Mhm.
unless you were like kind of drunk and crazy and at a
Yeah, we don't
costume
want that.
party in Cabo. Like, you might want to get the drunk, crazy Cabo pictures taken down just for a while. You can put, you know what, put them on a private setting. Take
Yeah.
anything that you think you wouldn't want someone, the head of HR, to see, and put them under a private setting. And then,
Okay.
yeah.
Got it.
I
Definitely.
don't know why I just thought of a drunk picture from Cabo, but it sort of gets you thinking, right?
Right. It definitely, definitely,
Seems
definitely.
like such a long time ago that all happened.
And moving on to the next one, what advice can you share to help a person nail the interview? So
Oh,
once they got their resume intact, it looks pretty good, boom, now it's the interview.
I'm so happy you asked that, because most interviews are being conducted exactly like you and I.
Yes,
Okay, it's
exactly.
online, it's Zoom, God forbid
Mhm.
it's FaceTime, but
Yeah.
most of them are being done online. And so let's just go through the 5 quick things. One,
Okay.
have a good camera.
Yeah.
You want a good connection. What
Mhm.
would be the worst thing at all, Sheila, if I broke up every other word,
I
right?
know. Oh my
Wouldn't
God.
that be the most distracting thing?
Yeah.
Or or worse, if I faded in and faded out. We've all had that happen on phone calls. There's
Mhm.
nothing worse. Or if you had to repeat your answer, it ruins the rhythm, is what
Yeah.
it is. So
Right.
most importantly, just be sure your sound is good. And if it isn't, go to the other part of the house where the sound is good. But be
Mhm.
sure you go to the part of the house that's not outside, so you don't have to worry about ambient noise from the neighbor. Just really take a few minutes and focus, and just realize this is important. This might not seem important, but that first interview, it's crucial. That gets you
Right.
to the next phase. So you want to look good. You want to dress like you mean business. You don't have to wear a suit and a tie or anything fancy, but you want to look professional. You want to
Mhm.
have good camera, you want to have good sound, you want to have good lighting. You and I were talking just before we started about the importance of lighting. You don't want your face to have too much light,
Right.
and you don't want to be too dark. You want to have a nice background, not too revealing. I'm in my office right now, so it's good. But people, they don't like, when they're interviewing, they're
Mhm.
not big on those virtual. You've seen those virtual Zoom
Yes.
backgrounds.
And
They
I don't
don't.
like them either.
No,
They just,
they look fake, and it
yeah,
makes you
totally.
wonder, what are you hiding? So
Yeah.
I'd rather you do not be in your bedroom. Do not have a bed in that background, by all
Right.
means, right?
Right.
If you don't have a choice and you live in a small place, have a door as a background, but do not have
Right.
a bed. And then the biggest mistake that people make is they will lean in. You
Mhm.
don't want to have big face filling up that.
Like scary Halloween.
You don't want to have big
Okay.
face is never, but I don't care how gorgeous you are, big face isn't good. So whatever you want,
I like the way you
um,
said that, big face.
big face, just
Yeah.
step back, take a
Yeah.
breath, step back, and it'll be much better. So,
Yeah. Awesome. God, that's fantastic.
oh, and one more thing. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
just thought of this. This happened to a friend of mine recently. They were so excited, they bought a ring light,
Mhm. Oh,
and which is great. A lot of people are buying those ring lights,
I know.
but they hadn't practiced with it, and so they were wearing glasses like I have, and the ring light caused a reflection in their glasses.
Oh, yeah.
So every time they moved their head, there's like this,
The
like you see the
glare.
reflection in my glasses. But if I were interviewing, I would make sure that I toned down any reflection. And that crazy ring light is good until it's not. So practice with it.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I got the cube. The cube
Much
is the
better.
thing that sits on top of your computer at the top, kind of thing.
Correct. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Awesome. In wrapping up the show, are there
Oh,
any other words of encouragement that you would like to share with our audience?
yes, I would want to say people are hiring. It doesn't seem like it. And as I mentioned earlier about the high unemployment figures, and they are horrible. And there's a lot of people out of work or in transition or being furloughed, but there is some hiring going on. So I don't want anyone to be discouraged. Check those websites. Be flexible, and just know that there is hiring, believe it or not. Maybe not the position that you had in mind, but be open. I did a Zoom with a recruiter, and she said, be open to opportunities that you never thought about before. There's a lot of new jobs in the marketplace that didn't exist before. So be open to new avenues. Don't be so tied to what you used to do. You know, be open to something that might be adjacent to what you did. And the other thing is be a little flexible when it comes to salary. Some people can't pay the salaries that they were before. Understand that. But remember, soon, at some point, please God, we will be through this horrible pandemic and things will get back to normal. But in the meantime, if you have to take a little tiny step back, you'll make it up down the road. And that's
Absolutely. And then where can people find you on social media?
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm on LinkedIn for Madeline Hammond and Associates. And then also I have the Hollywood Job Whisperer on my Instagram, and you'll see all the Zooms on there if you want. And then by all means, Facebook. I like Facebook. I'm old school.
I like Facebook too. I use it too. It works, you know.
It works. It's just so easy. So anyway, but I'm happy to, I'm just so pleased that you thought of me and to be your guest. And I hope this was helpful to people.
Oh, I think it will. I think it absolutely will. Well, thank you for being on our show. We really appreciate it. I will let you know when this episode will be posted out. Please find us on our YouTube channel. You can share it, make comments, things like that. Oh, it's been absolute pleasure having you on the show. I really thank you.
Sheila, thank you so much.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, all that good stuff, and stay safe.
Okay, good luck, everybody. See you later.
Bye-bye. Okay, bye.